king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people, keep the goods for yourself." But Abram answered, "I raise my hand to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take thread or sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, 'I have made Abram rich.' Nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the share of those who accompanied me. Let Anna, Eshcol, and Mamre take their share." After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision.
"Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great."
And Abram said, "O Lord God, what will you give me? I am childless, and the steward of my house, Elijah, is my heir." Abram also said, "To me you have given no descendants. The slave born in my house will be my heir." But the word of the Lord came to him.
"He shall not be your heir. Your heir shall be one of your own flesh."
Then the Lord led him outside and said,
"Look at the heavens, and if you can, count the stars.
And he said to him,
So shall your posterity be."
Abram believed the Lord, who credited the act to him as justice. He said to him,
"I am the Lord who brought you from Ur in Chaldea to give you this land to possess."
But he said, "How am I to know that I shall possess it?" He answered him,
"Bring me a heifer, 3 years old, a she-goat, 3 years old, a ram, 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon."
He brought him all these things and cut them in two, and laid each half opposite the other. But the birds he did not cut in two. Birds of prey swooped down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them off. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and terror came upon him, a great darkness. The Lord said to Abram,
"Know for certain that your posterity will be strangers in a land not their own. They shall be subjected to slavery and shall be oppressed for 400 years. But I will judge that nation which they shall serve, and afterward they shall go free with great possessions. And you shall go to your fathers in peace, and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation they shall return here, for the wickedness of the Amorites is not yet complete."
Now, when the sun had set and it was dark, a smoking oven and a fiery torch passed between the pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying,
"To your posterity I will give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, Ketmonites, the Hittites, Perizzites, Raphaim, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgazites, Jebusites."
Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had an Egyptian maid named Hagar. Sarai said to Abram, "The maid, perhaps I shall get children through her." Abram listened to Sarai. After Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, his wife, took Hagar, her Egyptian maid, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. And he went in to Hagar, and she conceived. When she was aware that she had conceived, she looked with disdain on her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, The injury done to me is your fault. I gave my maid to your embrace, and when she was aware that she had conceived, she looked on me with disdain. The Lord judge between you and me. Abram answered Sarai, Your maid is in your power. Do to her what seems good to you. And Sarai humiliated her, and she fled from her. Afterward, an angel of the Lord found her beside a spring of water in the desert, the spring on the road to Sur. He said, Hagar, maid of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? And she answered, I am fleeing from my mistress, Sarai. The angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress. Submit to her authority. The angel of the Lord added, I will so multiply your posterity that it'll be too many to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, You are with child, and shall bear a son. You shall call him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard of your humiliation. He shall be a wild ass of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. He shall dwell apart, opposing all his kinsmen. She named the Lord who spoke to her, You are the God of vision. For she said, Have I really seen God, and remained alive after my vision? Therefore the well was called Behalaroi. It is between Kadesh and Beret. So Agar bore Abram a son, and Abram called his son, whom Agar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Agar bore him Ishmael. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him and said,
I am God, the Almighty. Walk in my presence and be perfect. I will make my covenant between you and me. I will multiply you exceedingly.
Abram fell prostrate, and God spoke to him thus.
This is my covenant with you. You shall be the father of a multitude of nations. You shall no longer be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For I will make you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings shall descend from you. I will establish my covenant between you, me, and descendants after you, throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant, that I may be a God to you, and to your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you this land in which you are immigrants. All the land of Canaan is a perpetual possession, and I will be their God.
God also said to Abraham,
You shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between you, me, and your descendants after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin. It shall be a token of the covenant between you and me. He that is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male throughout your generations, including the slave born in your house, bought with money from any foreigner, not of your own race. Both he that is born in your house and he that is born with your money must be circumcised. My covenant shall be in your flesh, as a perpetual covenant. If any male have not the flesh of his foreskin circumcised, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant.
God said to Abraham,
Sarai, your wife, you shall not call Sarai, but Sarah. I will bless her. I will also give you a son by her. Yes, I will bless her. And she shall be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall descend from her.
And as Abraham fell prostrate, he laughed and said to himself, shall a son be born to one who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90, bear a child? Then Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael may live in your favor. God answered,
no, but Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as perpetual covenant for his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will bless him and make him fruitful and multiply him exceedingly. He shall become the father of 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. My covenant I will establish with Isaac, with whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year.
And when he had finished talking with him, God left Abraham. Then Abraham took his son, Ishmael, and all who were born in his house, and all who had been bought with his money, every male in his household, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins on that very day, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very day, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised. All the male members of his household, including the slaves born in the house or bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Now the Lord appeared to him by the terebinth Mamre, as he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. And when he raised his eyes, he saw 3 men standing at a distance from him. As soon as he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent door to meet them, and bowed down to the earth and said, my Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought that you may wash your feet, and then rest yourselves under the tree. Since you have come to your servant, I will bring you a little food that you may refresh yourselves. Then you may go on. They replied,
do as you have said.
Then Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, quick, 3 measures of fine flour, knead it and make loaves. And he ran to the herd, picked out a good, tender bullock, and gave it to the servant who hastened to prepare it. Then he took the curds and milk and the bullock, which had been prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him,
where is Sarah, your wife?
He answered, she is in the tent.
I will surely return to you this time next year,
He said.
Sarah your wife shall have a son.
Sarah was listening inside the entrance of the tent. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years, and Sarah no longer had periods, as is customary with women. So Sarah laughed to herself and said, now that I am grown old, and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham,
why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I indeed bear a child, though I am old? Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? At this time next year I will return to you, and Sarah will have a son.
But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. But he said, you did laugh. Then the men set out from there and looked towards Sodom. And Abraham walked with them to escort them on their way. The Lord said,
Can I keep from Abraham what I am about to do? For Abraham shall surely become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Indeed, I have chosen him, that he may charge his sons and his household after him, to observe the way of the Lord, doing what is good and right, so that the Lord may fulfill for Abraham what he has promised him.
And the Lord said,
Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done all that the outcry which has come to me indicates. If not, I will know.
So they turned from there and went towards Sodom, while Abraham remained standing in the presence of the Lord. Abraham drew near and said, Will you destroy the good with the wicked? If there be 50 just men in the city, will you then destroy the place and not spare it for the sake of the 50 just men within it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as kill the just with the wicked, treating just and wicked alike. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth act justly? And the Lord said,
If I find that there are 50 just men in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake.
Abraham answered, I have ventured to speak to the Lord, though I am but dust and ashes. What if there be 5 left, then 50 just men? Will you destroy the whole city on account of 5? He said,
I will not destroy if I find 45 there.
And Abraham spoke to him again. What if 40 be found there? He said,
I will not do it for the sake of 40.
Then he said, O Lord, be not angry if I speak. What if 30 be found there? He answered,
I will not do it if I find 30 there.
Abraham said, I have ventured to speak to the Lord. What if 20 be found there? He said,
I will not destroy it for the sake of 20.
Abraham said again, O Lord, be not angry if I speak once more. What if 10 be found there? He said,
I will not destroy it for the sake of 10.
The Lord departed after he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Now the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, while Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and falling prostrate to the earth, he said, Come inside, my lords, into the house of your servant. Stay overnight and bathe your feet, then you may arise early and go on your way. They said, No, we shall pass the night in the public square. But he urged them so strongly that they turned aside and entered his house. And he prepared a meal for them, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. They had not yet retired, when the townsmen, the men of Sodom, all the people from every quarter, both young and old, surrounded the house and called Lot, and said to him, Where are the men who came to your house tonight? Bring them out, that we may abuse them. Lot went out, shut the door behind him, and said, I entreat you, brethren, Do not act wickedly. I have 2 daughters that have not known men. Let me bring them out to you. Do as you please with them. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. But they said, Stand back. This fellow came in as a stranger, and he would play the judge. Why, we will treat you worse than we will treat them. Then they pressed hard against Lot and drew near to break in the door. But the visitors reached out their hands and drew Lot back into the house with them and closed the door. Those who were at the door of the house, they struck with blindness, from the least to the greatest, so that they could not find the door. Then they said to Lot,
Have you anyone else in here? Sons-in-laws, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Take them out of the place. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against them has become so great before the Lord that he sent us to destroy it.
Lot went out to speak to his intended sons-in-laws and said, Come, leave this place, for the Lord shall destroy the city. But they thought he was jesting. When morning came, the angels urged Lot on, saying,
Come on, take your wife and your 2 daughters here, lest you perish in the punishment of the city.
And as he lingered, the visitors took him, his wife, and his 2 daughters by the hand through the mercy of the Lord toward him, and led him forth and set him outside the city. When they had brought him forth, they said,
Flee for your life. Do not look behind, nor stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the hills, lest you perish.
Lot said to them, No, my lords, surely your servant has found favor with you, and great is the mercy which you have shown me in saving my life. I cannot flee to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. But there is a city nearby to which I can flee. It is a little one. Let me save myself there. It is a little one, is it not? So let me live, he said to him.
I grant you this favor also. I will not destroy the city of which you speak. Make haste. Seek safety there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there.
Therefore, the city was known as Zor. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot entered Zor. The Lord poured down on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. He overthrew those cities and the whole region and all the inhabitants of the city and the plants of the soil. But his wife, who was behind him, looked back and became a pillar of salt. Early in the morning, Abraham came to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward the whole region and saw smoke rising from the earth as though a furnace. While God destroyed the cities of the region, he remembered Abraham and led Lot away from the catastrophe when the cities where Lot lived were overthrown.